everybody's going to see a little bit of everything: freezing rain, sleet, snow. But the transition will be much quicker to the northern and western areas from that freezing rain to sleet and then to snow. Front rolls on through and we lose the daytime heating on Saturday. Things actually may clear out for the Pineville fireworks. You notice a lot of wind shear aloft, and that right there causes a lot of forcing.
Hey Barry, when I was walking over to the studio, it's kind of getting blustery outside.
Yeah, it's definitely that rain-cooled air. You know, it's denser than the warmer air around it, so it sinks, and once it sinks, it hits the surface, it spreads out in all directions, and can kind of feel good, especially on a hot, sweltering day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week, it looks like we could definitely see a warming trend, maybe even mid-90s.
It's not what I want to hear. I didn't want to hear that one. Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm not saying it can't change. Hopefully it does change, but that looks to be the trend as of now.
You got a week to change it, Barrett.
I got a week.
You got a week.
We'll see.
All right, thank you, Barrett.
1/4 inch to 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain and sleet throughout most of the area. On top of that, we could see a trace to up to 1 inch of snow in the blue shaded areas that you see. Once you go northwest, that cold air gets deeper. It's not as shallow, it gets deeper. So because of that, we expect 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. As mentioned earlier, there's a stationary front across the area. You can see it's very slow movement here. It's moving to the south just a little bit, starting to get into the metro. And the way the radar picks up fronts is that the fronts will usually kick up just a little bit of dust, or what we call aerosols, in the atmosphere, and the radar picks up on those aerosols. Aerosols just meaning just particles or dust in the atmosphere, maybe smog in the atmosphere, just generic things.
Looks like we'll enjoy the rest of the week, a dry rest of the week, and then next week should be rainy.
Yeah, that's right. We definitely do deserve it. Right now it looks like there's maybe a very tiny chance of severe weather on Tuesday, but of course it's too far out to get too specific.
All right, after looking at that. Thanks, Barrett. All right, well, speaking of Barrett, he also went and visited one of our local schools today. Today, Barrett Phillips visited 2nd grade students at Phoenix Magnet Elementary in Alexandria. He's talked about what broadcast meteorologists do and how one can get into the industry. This is all part of their Community Helpers Unit, discussing different job fields and career paths in the community. And they were a smart group of kids with an interest in weather. You can have a meteorologist also visit your class by going to KLB.com and clicking the Weather Lab tab. Pretty nice evening out there. Those temperatures starting to dip just a little bit as we have drier air coming in, clearing skies throughout the metro as well. Temperatures right at 59 degrees, so they are getting a little bit chillier out there. We did have breezy conditions earlier today behind the front, but now since the nighttime has set in, those winds have gotten a little bit lighter. We have winds in the upper levels in the jet stream howling from the northwest, and the jet stream is basically just a stream or a river of faster winds in the upper levels. This goes up to about 20,000 feet in height above the ground or above sea level, and you notice those winds actually strengthen from the northwest there aloft Thursday, but as you get some daytime heating, those winds can kind of mix down to the surface, and so that's a reason why we're going to see breezy conditions for your Thursday lasting into parts of Friday. This right here is a photo of a sundog that was taken by Julie Carey, and this right here was taken just east of Tioga. It was actually on Donahue Ferry Road earlier this afternoon, and this was emailed to us. And basically how this works is the sun is actually behind the clouds, and what happens is whenever the light comes at a straight angle, you can only see so many colors within it, but not all the colors of the rainbow. And I do want to mention this is not a rainbow, it is a sundog, but you have ice crystals high up in the atmosphere within the clouds, and with the ice crystals, the light goes through the crystals, and the crystals actually bend the light a little bit, kind of like what sunlight does whenever it goes into water or into a pool or something. It bends a little bit, and because that light bends, you're able to actually see all the colors of the rainbow that's within that light. Whenever a drought like this occurs for so long, the ground gets hard and it starts to cake on top. And so what happens is when you have those heavy rains, those thunderstorm rains, and that rain just comes down, it just wipes right off of it and goes into the drains or haulers or wherever it may. It does not soak into the ground. And so that's really not the type of rain that you want in this environment. What you want is you want a long, prolonged soaking rain, a rain that's moderate, you know, that soaks the whole viewing area and that lasts for hours, not a thunderstorm rain that only lasts 30 minutes and then rolls off.
on. So that's really the type of rain that we look for whenever it comes to these weather patterns. And unfortunately, it looks like over the next 7 days, that probably won't be the case. Here's a close-up look at Hurricane Laura as it continues to move to the north-northwest at 15 miles an hour. The pressure's risen just very slightly, although the wind speeds have stayed the same. And there's even been some wind gusts offshore at about 180 miles an hour for the wind gusts. This right here is the sustained at 150. And the pressure's risen for a little bit from 937 millibars and 939 millibars. But the best I can gather as far as the wind field is concerned, it looks like where you're seeing those moderate rain, pretty much the yellow shaded areas right there, that's where your tropical storm force winds begin. And then of course around the eye wall, that would be where the hurricane force winds are. Now I checked the temperatures at some individual stations in these areas. On average, you're running right around 33. I did find one station near a dry prong though that did read 32.0 degrees. So most of this still rain with a little bit, maybe some freezing rain starting to mix in. That's going to do its best to kind of turn this up to the north, which it's already done a good job doing that. And then this high pressure earlier was steering that up to the north and west. This high pressure, you know, some models were wanting to take it into East Texas, even further into East Texas. And that was due to this high pressure kind of bubbling over to the west. But that really just didn't happen. So therefore, it looks like it's going to zip on up the state line. But if anything, it's my personal opinion that the eye wall could go over a lot of Beauregard and Vernon parishes. Some of us have cooled off into the upper 40s thanks to that rainfall. We did have a little bit of dry air in the lower levels, and so we did see a little bit of evaporative cooling. But I think this right here is going to be pretty much spot on. You know, the National Hurricane Center upped those winds a little bit for the Vernon Parish and Beauregard Parish areas, and that's pretty much on par with what we have here. You notice I-49. If you live along I-49, you can experience those wind gusts up to about 65 miles an hour, up to about 45 miles an hour in Natchez, a little bit calmer in that direction. But a lot of Vernon, Beauregard parishes could see those wind gusts up to maybe even 110 miles an hour. We do have tropical depression too over here meandering across the northeastern Gulf. You notice most of the activity to the northeast side of the center of low pressure there. You notice some activity earlier today with the heat of the day along Florida and extending south toward the Florida Keys as well. You notice this has just made the Pig Curl loop, and so it is now heading to the south there over the next few days. It is actually predicted to become a tropical storm, and if that happens, we'll have the first name tropical storm of the season. Once we head into Friday, you notice a 60% chance of precipitation. Not really sold on it all yet. Some models are saying that front's going to come through dry. Other models are saying we could get quite a bit of rain out of it. So we're just kind of taking the average of the models that we have available. It does have a center of circulation, but that center of circulation isn't too well defined right now. But the overall storm system is a little bit better organized. This right here is a non-tropical disturbance, basically meaning it's cold core in the upper levels. It's not warm core. So because of that, it's non-tropical, and there's only about a 20% chance that this does become tropical. Like I said earlier, we're out here at LSUA's 17th annual Trick or Treat Street Celebration going on. It's from 5 till 7 o'clock this evening. It's actually about to begin here in the next 40 minutes or so. And basically how it works is you go online beforehand, you buy the tickets, and that's how they make their money with that. And they distribute that money between a bunch of student organizations. So it's a fundraiser is what it is. And those student organizations are actually over 40. So there's quite a bit of organizations that those funds do get allocated to. And you can see that we're out here in the first alert, Laurel Earl's first alert storm tracker. You can see we're in the cul-de-sac as well. So the kids over the next 40 minutes or so will start lining up around this cul-de-sac, and they will actually kind of go straight on to the I believe that's east that way. And there's different booths lined up and set up, and that's where they get their candy, and that's how they make the fundraiser happen. A very active day today, storm-wise. You can hear the rain and the thunder outside the roof there. You'll notice that the squall line's rolling to the east at a pretty good clip. You can expect to see up to 3 inches of rainfall with this squall line as it rolls through your area. These northern warnings here are basically winds gusting up to 70 miles an hour. That's along these northern areas here from the Windsor area down to Harrisonburg, Jonesville, Gina, extending down to Pollock. And it looks like they've actually just allowed that severe thunderstorm warning for repeats in Vernon Parish to expires. So that's good news there, but still seeing those winds gusting up to 60 to 70 miles an hour there for northern areas, and then it looks like it's become sub-severe once you go further south of there. Still a lot of heavy rainfall though moving through the metro area. In fact, some of the heaviest rainfall right now moving through the metro, and that heavy rainfall extends to the south but does become more scattered once you go into parts of Beauregard Parish. Temperatures in the 70s out along and ahead of the squall line, 60s out behind that squall line. We have 67 at the airport, up to 78 in Marksville, down to about 64 right now for the Winfield area. This is all part of a very large system that extends all the way up into the Midwest. You can see some rain on the northeastern side getting to that cool sector there. Then you notice blizzard, winter storm warnings, even blizzard warnings for parts of Minnesota and the Dakotas as well. They're expecting up to 3 feet of snow by the time it all comes to an end. So numerous severe storms, well, you can pretty much say they've already happened for northern areas. Scattered severe storms will be possible as well for southern areas there. The metro itself is included in level 3 out of level 5 here for central Louisiana, and the further northeast you go, the worse those storm chances get. The severe winds and also the hail will be the two primary factors. We've already seen that radar indicated, not only radar indicated, but also seen reports of that, especially coming out of Sabine Parish as well. So those are the two primary factors, although we have seen I believe two tornado warnings so far here in central Louisiana as well. So that's going to continue to be a possibility, up to about a 15% chance of you receiving an isolated tornado within 25 miles of where you live. And along these squall lines, those tornadoes can pop up very quickly and also dissipate very quickly. So you have to keep your guard up because they can happen like that. Those temperatures eventually dipping to the 60s, and the squall line gets into our southeastern areas later on, right around 7, 8 o'clock this evening, pushes out of the area by midnight tonight. Temperatures dip into the 50s. I think the upper 40s may be a little cool, maybe on the northern areas, but here in the metro I have forecast 50 for the low tonight. Our highs in the upper 70s for your Thursday. Much calmer, much drier day for your Thursday. We all definitely deserve it. 80% chance of precipitation for this evening for Leesville and DeRidder. Basically a 90 to 100% chance elsewhere for this evening. Most of us receiving about a 1/4 inch to about 3/4 of an inch of rainfall widespread, but someone could see up to 3 inches before all is said and done. And that right there just verifies our forecast, because we've been seeing that so far this evening, and that's verifying as we speak right now. So those temperatures in the 80s once again as we head on to your Friday, a 30%, a 50% chance of scattered activity on Wednesday. SPC hasn't come out with anything yet on it. Really, in general, I think it'll be more garden variety, but an isolated severe storm or two, I don't think's out of the realm there for your Saturday. Temperatures in the mid-80s, 80 there on Sunday. We're going to have a front on Sunday that kind of flirts around with central Louisiana. It could come into our northern areas by Sunday morning, kind of stall out for a bit, but it will push through the area as we head into Sunday night. So that's the reason why I have the front marked there on Sunday night. Temperature of 80 for the high there on Sunday. 40% chance of scattered activity, and that chance is going to continue until that front clears out. After that, it looks like we zero things out for your Tuesday. Temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler behind the front as well. Wednesday, a 10% chance of a stray shower. Those temperatures back to around 80 degrees there for the high. So very active, and you'll probably still hear the rainfall on the roof.
Yeah, Barrett, you were telling me at the beginning of the show, because I asked you, we had that tornado warning. It was supposed to be till 6:15, lasted about 5 minutes, and they lifted it. You said that's not uncommon.
No, it's not uncommon, because a lot of times you can have strong, tight rotation, and over the course of 5 minutes, that rotation can weaken very quickly. If they see that's the case, they'll just let the warning go.
All right, thanks, Barrett. We'll check back in with you as we need to.
It's beginning to pick up something right in here in the center. Now I'll have to query it real quick to see exactly what it's reading. But it's reading down to about a 0.5. So that right there would tell us that it is starting to pick up some non-meteorological artifacts. I have this area over here that's been training all evening, and so because those storms have been training all evening, up to 3 inches of rainfall has been reported in these areas. Some circulation with this. No tornado warning out with this yet, but there is broad circulation with this, as you can see with the outbound winds and the inbound winds, and you kind of see a little bit of a notch with the radar right in here, and then maybe another one up to the north in here. So overall, with this tornado warning, we kind of have a little bit of a broad signature going on, but we do kind of have two little areas that we are kind of keeping a closer eye on. What happens is squall line moves east, but the storms within it can kind of train to the northeast within the squall line. And so the more training you got, pretty much the more rainfall that you got. This storm does have a history of producing damage. Now, we personally don't know if that's been just wind damage, or if it did spawn up a little bit of a tornado, but that's what you have to assume. So therefore, you take take the necessary precautions out ahead of these squall lines and these supercells that develop. That's kind of what we look for, those kind of gusty winds at the surface, because the higher those gusty winds are, especially if they get up to about 25 knots, it's going to kind of allow for more of a spin in the atmosphere.